Hello, this is Jed Morgan and welcome to the 9th in the series of the WebExes for the installation and configuration of the iCube PBX. We're going to continue with Advanced Settings, go into the remainder of the menus available in the configuration GUI. So let's have a look at what we'll be looking at. We went through those in the previous WebEx and we're going to look at these in this current WebEx. We have looked at a couple of these headings, but we'll go into those in little detail and delve deeper into the ones we haven't touched really. Okay, so we'll come from there, we'll go into our system, we'll log on and we'll run through the menus briefly. With Lan Settings, we went through this in one of the first WebExes where we set up the box configuration for the LAN and the network. Also available in the 600 and the 2000 is a WAN connection on the back of the box, which gives us another available Ethernet connection out to a WAN or another LAN or whatever you want to use it for. It's flexible, it can be DHCP or static, so you could run your local traffic through the LAN, all your telephone traffic through the LAN, etc., and you could run your IP SIP trunking through the WAN connection if you wish. Static routes, capable of inserting static routes from this network to another network that's not local. We can use static routes. Firewall, I'm not going to touch too much on the firewall because this is going to come in our next WebEx, which will be covering security, which is a very important WebEx, and you must have a look at that WebEx. It's going to be very important. Dhcp Server, we've touched on this, we've looked at this where we got the iCube PBX to be a Dhcp server where it dispenses IP addresses out to the devices that we're going to connect to it. So it will automatically give out IP addresses within a set range. Ours, for example, is 5.2 to 5.50. VLAN settings, we support VLAN settings over LAN and over WAN. You must be familiar with VLANs if you wish to set them up, but we support VLAN settings. As we do with OpenVPN, we support OpenVPN, and if you're creating OpenVPN, we have to enable it here, and this is where we browse for the configuration that you created in OpenVPN, but you don't assign groups and hunt groups or user groups as per the informational instructional icon here. Once you've found your file, click on import and it imports your VPN configuration for you. DDNS settings, so this is where we can access the network using domain names instead of IP addresses. Of course you have to be signed up with an external provider that will provide your DNS settings for you, DNS server for you. So as you create your enabled DDNS, this is your DDNS server. You can use free ones off the internet. There are examples given above here. Register with them, and host name and DDNS is up and working. External storage, on the 2000 system, we talked about having an internal SATA hard drive ready for recording voicemail, call recordings, etc. This is where we actually indicate where our off-box storage medium is going to be. So if you look at the headings in here, we notice that they're underlined. If you actually hover over the underlined sentence, step 1, click on that, it actually takes you through and how to choose it and how to set it up for the location for the external storage. Okay, so options for you to click on if you're creating. There's another option down here, and it just gives you an example as to where to look to see if you've been successful in creating the off-box storage or the external storage location. So quite simply, you give it a host IP address, a share name, username and password, and you can actually stipulate when it will move the files. So files older than 5 days will be moved over to the external storage. So once you've created your settings there, you can test, make sure the settings are completed successfully. Once you've hit save, apply changes, and then just look for an example as to how if you've set them up correctly, and you go to the share file on your PC, and you'll see that it's actually created. External storage. Password settings. This is where we create a new password for the system administration. So we change password to be a strong password here with characters and digits. Time and date. We've covered this in a previous WebEx. We can use an internet provided NTP server. There's an example there, the one we use. If you've got access to the internet and you want to use an NTP server, this is where you create your automatic one. Or we can set time and date manually. We'll come on to backup and restore, and a couple of things in the system now that we're going to be using quite regularly. I think one of the most important steps is when you or an engineer or service engineer attend site is for him to do a backup immediately. The first thing he does if he goes to maintain a system or service a system, if there's a fault, the first thing he does is create a backup. So here, create a backup, create a new backup. We can give it a file name. Would be latest Nimans. Backup successfully done. Backup is indicated here in the list of backups. Now we can download from the system. Download file. Save. Save it to the desktop. And you have a configuration there should anything go wrong while you're carrying out the service or the maintenance. So restore a backup. Quite the opposite, really. You simply restore for a previous configuration. Restore previous configuration from the backup. So you would click on restore there. It will erase all current configuration. Are you sure you want to proceed? And the system will reboot. So you'd click OK and let the system go off and come back with that configuration. So that's quite straightforward. Looking then at reset and reboot. So at some stage during the service or maintenance or installation, you may need to reboot the system. Simply select the option from the menu here. Do a standard reboot where it will terminate all the active calls and do a reboot on the system. Select this option. And to restore to factory defaults, we use this option. It does not delete the IP addresses. So it just restores the configuration to factory defaults, does not delete the IP addresses. Firmware update. Again, two options here. Via HTTP via URL, or we can use a TFTP server. Indicate the TFTP server address and the file name. You can select the option to reset your configuration to factory defaults if you wish, or leave that unflagged and it will just simply upgrade the firmware. Click Start and it will go off and download the new firmware. The system will reboot on completion, and that's job done. Okay, just moving on to the final little section within the system. I want to go through a couple of nice little things that that we've got available, and the first one is we can actually look at call logs. So we open call logs. Now this is it's an IQPBX locally based call logs. It's not full call logging. It won't provide stats for a year. It won't provide lots of further in-depth details that the customer may want, but it's a free feature. There's no charge, and what we do is we can search actually by date. Open the calendar and I can go back to the 9th of May. 9th of May, end date, caller or callee, which trunk do you want to look on, duration. If you look on the informational instructional icon, the duration of the record will be equal or greater than this. So you can put it, so as long as say calls are longer than 15 seconds, then it will find the calls that are longer than 15 seconds. Status, you can have all, you can have answered, not answered, that lines were busy or failed. Communication, it can be inbound, outbound, internal, or even callback numbers. And you click on Start Searching, and we get the information here. So we're indicating here time and date, the caller who initiated the call, person being called. It would indicate a source trunk if there was one listed, destination trunk, that's our outbound trunk that was made to make that used to make the call, and the duration, status whether it was answered and which direction it flowed, inbound or outbound. You can download the records. You click on download, you can save them. It appears as a .csv file, so you can save these. Save in the desktop, save, and downloaded. Close. So that's call log. It gives you a bit of a clue when you're going to do maintenance or service calls also, so you can see well, I made a call this morning to such a number and it got cut off, and then you can see the duration, etc. It gives you little clues and hints for troubleshooting and seeing where a problem might lie. We have the facility in here to create system logs for analysis. If research and development need to have some logs, if you have a certain problem on a site, we can create certain logs and they'll be requested. We can have debug logs. If we enable a debug log, we can do a SIP debug, RTP packet debug, and basic rate debug on ISDN. So we can check it, IP address of the device or system, save, and the system will run, or the device will run the debug trace. You make the fault happen or the occurrence happen again, and then we can download the traces. We can save and download the traces. So there we select download the selected log. So if we save a log, it will appear up here in the completed logs, and then we can click download and send them off to research and development for analysis. Same with the hardware log. We can create a hardware log and a normal log. Enable a web log. It saves the history of web operations, so who's been in and programming where from, what's happened on the web log, web access when you access as a user or admin or service. It will save those logs as well. So we have quite a little neat comprehensive range of logs we can generate from the system in order to give us answers if there are any problems. And the final one on our menu for us to look at is basically system info. And what this is, it just simply gives us an indication of the status of the system, what's actually gone on, what's in the system, uptime, memory usage. So it's just an indication of what's happening or what is on the system, what is stated there. Okay, that brings us to the end of our menu structure and going through basically the installation configuration of IQPBX. I will quickly touch on one other thing with outbound routes. If I look in we'll turn to the web for this. We can look at. I want to look at outbound call control. So it's a way of initiating a form of call barring by simply not allowing an extension to be moved into the selected range. So we leave, if we want an extension to be barred, we leave it in available extensions and move everybody else over to the selected and the selected trunks. We've also got another way of sort of barring or security on the lines is to set up a password for the outbound route. So if somebody dials 00, for example, international number, they can be asked to dial a password before making the call. So they must enter the correct password before making an outbound call through this route and these trunks. Another way is to initiate a PIN users. So we can have all the workers, everybody here can have a PIN number, so it can restrict outbound calls. So they would have to have a PIN number, and they would have to enter their PIN number in order to make a call, for example, to an international route. So the trunks, these are the available trunks, and the available route will be international. So just sort of three little methods of initiating call control, and to use the PIN method they would dial *89. System will ask for a PIN number, and if the user passes the authentication they'll be able to make the outbound international or premium rate call, or whichever number would otherwise be disbarred. Okay, just a little touch on call control while I had it in my mind, and that brings us basically to the end of the installation configuration of the IQPBX. We're going to continue with our WebEx that is going to be very important with security, so I look forward to speaking to you on that one. Thank you very much. I'll speak to you on the next one.